Hello and welcome to We Watch TV, the podcast about the TV that we watch. I am Daniel and this is a supercut. If you are new to the podcast and aren't familiar, a supercut is where we take our conversations about a specific show over the course of many different podcast episodes and stitch them all together into one long supercut for you to enjoy, specifically if you're looking for content about one show in particular. Today's supercut is all about Percy Jackson and the Olympians. And we started off our conversation about Percy Jackson in episode 52. We ran a marathon.
So that we know that a lot of people knew that we were down there. I know this is the We Watch TV podcast, but we did want to kind of share that experience with you.
And I've got the segue for you.
Oh?
Yeah, we've been watching some TV. What do you know about Greek mythology? Did you know that, for instance, that the marathon, the very first marathon, is from Greece, where...
I did know that, actually.
I knew you did. Anyways, we have been watching some TV, and one of the things that we watched was Percy Jackson and the Olympians.
Yes.
That's what it's called, right? On Disney+.
On Disney+. I would like to preface this by saying I went against everything I believe in. I did not have time to read the books yet. I'm going to do that. We never saw the first movies that came out. So
which
we knew
apparently,
about
according to everything I've seen online, is no loss whatsoever.
Apparently, a lot of the book fans hated those movies and are saying good things about the Disney Plus show. Once I get my hands on those books,
oh, I know.
I'm going to read them, and then I'll be able to compare.
They're like young adult books.
Yeah, I think I can fly through them.
Will just destroy them at your reading pace.
I will.
So anyways, Percy Jackson is a weekly release. We caught up with it a couple weeks after. We've actually seen the first...
We have one episode that we're not caught up on.
We've seen the first 5 episodes, I believe.
Four.
The 4 episodes. The 5th episode is the one we haven't watched yet.
I believe
so. And then there's probably like 8 to 10 episodes for the season. I'm not sure how many. So that's where we are at, is episode 4.
And basically what it is about, from my understanding, is Percy Jackson's mom is a normal human, so we think, and she hooked up with a Greek god, one of the main 3 brothers of the big 3. They're Hades, Zeus, and Poseidon. And obviously, we knew it was going to be Poseidon because we could tell Percy had water power early.
There's a trident in the opening credit, the title screen.
And those 3 made a pact that they would
weren't
stop
going to do it with humans anymore.
Yeah, and really for all the gods, doing it with humans and having kids is frowned upon, because then monsters want to attack the kids, which are the demigods
or half-bloods.
So they send these demigod children to this Hogwarts type, Sabrina the Witch type camp place, and that's where
they play capture the flag.
Yeah, where they play capture the flag. They're supposedly protected there, and then if your god, mother, or father hasn't claimed you yet, you go off to an unclaimed house. And then when they do claim you, you go to that house. Poseidon hadn't claimed anybody, so Percy was going to be in his little house all alone. But then he gets sent in this quest.
We assume that Zeus's house and Hades' house would also be equally empty because they supposedly have a pact where they weren't supposed to be out there, doing it.
So before, though,
at least with the regular humans.
Before Percy gets taken to this place, he finds out suddenly from his mom, because he gets expelled from school because he used by accidentally his water powers to attack his bully, who was just a little redhead girl. What is going on? And she's like, I got something to tell you. And she takes a very long time to tell the story. And I'm like, oh my Lord, get to the point. Get to the point, woman. Get to the point. And she finally tells him, she doesn't say, though, she just says his dad's a god, that he's a demigod. She doesn't say it's Poseidon. So suddenly his little friend at school that we thought sold him out turns out to be, he's his protector. He's a satyr, a goat boy.
Yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, they get close to the camp, and one of the monster things comes out. And
it's a minotaur. It's not one. It's a classic Greek monster.
Whatever. And we think it kills the mom, but we see her kind of evaporate into air.
She like Thanos snapped.
Yeah. So they think that Hades has her. So part of his quest is they have to go down and get something from Hades, but everybody thinks Percy took this other item, which he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. But on the side, Percy's basically yeah, I'm going there to get my mom.
His quest is to go.
I don't care about this quest. I don't care about my dad. Here's to you, Dad.
His quest is to retrieve the Master Bolt.
Yeah, which is like Zeus's bolt.
Yeah, that apparently everybody, which got
Am I
stolen.
gonna meet Hercules in this?
Which got stolen, and everybody thinks that Percy took it for some reason, which hasn't been explained to me why anybody thinks this.
Am I gonna get to meet
all.
Hercules? Because isn't Hercules Zeus's son?
He'd be a demigod, though, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But is Hercules unless Zeus hooked up with a goddess?
Who is Hercules' mom? I have no idea.
I just know the song "Zero to Hero," and that. Speaking of Ted Lasso, Roy Kent's gonna be Hercules.
That's in a whole different. Not in this one.
Universe.
That's a whole different thing.
Let's talk about casting of this, though. I feel like they actually look like kids.
They really do.
He totally has that like 12-year-old puberty voice. And then I looked at like the cast of the movies because I was curious, and I know those people have obviously aged since like 2010, but even back then they all looked older.
Yeah.
This actually looks like a young cast. I think there's going to be some romance eventually. I don't know if you're going to get that in there with them being so young at this point.
I would hope that
we met Medusa, who was played by Nora from The Flash, Barry and Iris's child.
You know, I didn't recognize, like, I didn't.
It was the voice for me.
And it was the voice. But
when
you told me, when you told me that, I was like, oh, well.
Nick Offerman's wife is like one of the ladies that are like trying to like get to Percy, right?
Yeah, I can't remember what they're called.
The one woman with the monster, Daniel. I did IMDb her. She was totally the gym teacher in that Frasier episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Really.
Okay. Wow.
Nailed that
Deep
one.
cut.
She's been in so many other things, but
Deep
Frasier.
So, I'm enjoying it so far. I mean,
I like
so
it.
we started it the other night when we were sick and tired, and we were both kind of like, I'm not sure. And I don't know, maybe the best thing I can say about it is because of kind of the age range that it's geared at.
It's easy.
Us, where we were at from our mental state, it was really easy.
It's
to
easy.
just sit and watch and eat dinner.
Took some cold medicine,
and not,
watched it. At one point,
maybe the cold medicine helped a little bit.
They're like in St. Louis going up in the arch, and Daniel's like, "Is that what it really looks like when you go up in the arch?" And I've been up in the arch, and it really is what it looks like. You get in this tiny like little like vehicle like thing.
Seems very claustrophobic.
Yeah, I can't believe that I did that. Honestly,
yeah,
the fact that I agreed to that, it is crazy because I hate elevators in general. People like I will take the stairs any day of the week. The only time I thought about taking the stairs or taking the elevator was right after my marathon because we were on a second floor room. And I was like, ooh, stairs.
So we got it anyways.
We did.
I old man walked up those steps for that whole weekend. You know, that old man where like crouched down, butt out, leaned over, and pumping the arms to get up them steps.
Speaking of old men, the guy that's in Parks and Rec, and he's been in a bunch of stuff. He's like the perfume guy. Yeah. He was also in an episode of Modern Family. He's one of the gods. He's like the god, like
Dionysus,
the drinking
of wine and like fun and stuff.
All I know is he had a Diet Coke, and I was like, see, he's a god and he's drinking a Diet Coke. It's okay. And then he's like, you can tell he's trying to get like his alcohol, and I was like, oh, I guess he's not reliable. What do you think about the cast? I mean, like, other than anything else you want to say about it? Like, I
know now.
I want to know where they're going with this because
4 episodes in.
Am I supposed to like the gods? Because right now they all seem
I don't
like
think
jerks.
So let me tell you.
Maybe the gods need to stop doing it with humans if they don't want to have demigod children running around.
And
maybe
if there's book readers out there who have seen into this more with the series, there's a real there's a subtext to this show.
Yes.
About parenting.
How no one's a good parent?
No, not necessarily no one's a good parent, but how just
absentee parents.
Yeah, the way parenting can affect your development and how some kids go one way with it and some kids go another way with it. And to me, it's not subtle. It's hitting you over the head with it, but it really is. For me, that's what's connecting to me right now is that subtextual conversation that we're getting.
And if we meet Poseidon though, am I supposed to like him?
Yeah, well, that's
right now,
ultimately for me. That's the thing is I want to meet. We've met one god so far in Dionysus.
Yeah, we haven't met,
and we really haven't met near the rest of them.
I know the movies cast that had the big three, they were in the movies, the big three gods. So I'm sure they'll show up at some point.
Right. Well, we know they're going to Hades, so the chances of us meeting Hades are high.
I like how the underworld is underneath Los Angeles, though.
Yeah, Poseidon has made himself known to Percy at this point in the show. So
we had to claim him for like after they captured
the chances
flag.
we meet him are high, and then they keep talking about Zeus a lot. So you figure the big guy's got to show up at some point. So I'll be interested to see who they've cast in these characters and how they are portrayed in the show, because I'm always interested in like how the portrayals of that stuff go. When
and
it
once
comes
I
to
read
any
the books,
gods
then I will have a more firmer judgment and a grasp on what they did right and what they didn't do right. I can definitely see though why book readers probably are preferring the show, because I really think that it's hard to take books to a movie sometimes, or especially a series. Yes, you take a gamble when you do a show because you don't know if you get a season 1. I'm assuming season 1 of the show's based on the first book.
Yes, I'm assuming that.
Especially with like children. It's one of the reasons, and this is a very unpopular opinion, it's one of the reasons why I, unlike other Harry Potter fans, am not vehemently against them doing a Harry Potter reboot in the form of a show. I always knew, come on, they were no one has any creativity anymore. They were always going to redo Harry Potter at some point.
What did I say when
when
we walked out of Deathly Hallows Part 2? What did I say? I said I can't wait for in 10 years when we get to see
and
the
I
emo
said,
version.
I want to go watch it right away
the
again.
emo version of Harry Potter done on TV.
But do you not remember if Deathly Hallows? We walked out of the theater and we walked right back in and saw it again because I had to see it again anyway. And I love the Harry Potter books. And I like the movies, but the movies left out some stuff that I felt like were important to the books, and they gave certain lines to other characters. Like, you could tell, this is one of my beef with the movies, I gotta get on the soapbox here, that I love Emma Watson too, but not at the expense of the character of Ron. Ron kind of got cast aside a little bit, and that you could tell the director, like they would even go as far as giving some of Ron's lines to Hermione. Ginny Weasley is awesome in the books. In the movies, she's all right.
Can I say something? The Harry Potter movies, whether you like them or you hate them,
and I never said I hated them.
I know you love them.
I love them.
And whether you're looking forward to a show or not, you have to admit the regardless of the things that they didn't do right from the books, the casting of those movies could not have been better.
Oh yeah, it was perfect. I just wish that they would have. When I say characterization, I mean.
Yeah,
Jenny
I know what you
was
mean.
awesome.
Yeah.
And the movies I don't even think it's anything against the actress who played Jenny in the movies. It's just they didn't have time to really show us what Jenny was all about, like what we got from the books.
I mean, the actors can only do with what they were given.
Yeah, anytime I talk to like movie-only people that are like, I don't understand how... They're like, I get it how Ron and Hermione are together. They're like, but I don't understand the Harry-Jenny thing. I'm like, read the books, please. I'm like, they don't make so much sense to you. And people that shipped Harry and Hermione, you are so incredibly wrong. I can't believe that there's even book people that ever thought that, because it's Ron, Hermione all the way. Had to get that off my chest. And that's another beef that I had with the movie, is where they put that little dance in the 7th. And they think they did that to show that he was just trying to make her feel better. But what it did was it took some of those movie-only watchers and made them think, because I had a friend that didn't know, and I'm like, oh, honey. I was like, it's not even a thing at all. I was like, Hermione is all about Ron, even when Ron is the biggest jerk ever to her.
So Percy Jackson and the Olympians.
Anyway, I have one more point to go. I let you do this all the time with Star Trek. Shows can give you more content. And I think that's why, even though I don't think it needs to be made, I'm like, you know what? If they're going to do this Harry Potter show, maybe we'll explain how the original way the firebolt happened. Maybe we'll get to the whole elves, like the political things. Maybe we'll get to see how awesome Jenny is. So maybe that's why, I don't know, Percy Jackson readers, is this why you're liking the series better? Are you getting more details? Because there was one scene, I think in the last episode we watched, it was the one with Medusa, so it was the episode before the last one we watched, where the 3 kids were just like conversating for a really long time, to the point we were like, this scene is dragging.
It's been multiple times in the series
and
where
I'm like,
that's happened, and I'm wondering,
this is like a book thing?
Yeah, they're like they're giving it time to breathe. For me, it's a little, It's not a show killer by any stretch of the imagination. And honestly, like with sitting on the couch just trying to relax, it's just like, okay, it's just kind of taking its time and getting there. But I can certainly see how I think that once you've read the books, you'll be able to give us a little bit more insight as to whether or not that's like
insight into the monsters not liking the demigods. I feel like that's probably explained well in the books too.
Hopefully.
Because I feel like they just kind of like say like, and they don't like each other, and this is why, and here we go. Like, I don't think they explain that enough in the show, and I have a feeling, you might get more backstory with that in the books. But anyway, my point had to get on the Harry Potter. So, like, can you imagine if they made Game of Thrones into a movie? Like,
it'd be a disaster.
It'd be a disaster. This is why, like, shows, and like the Lord of the Rings show, when you told me they were doing that at first, I thought it was actually going to be about, like, the Lord of the Rings, like the movies that we saw into a show. Because the first thing I said to you was, like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. Because I always said that. How cool would it be to have a Lord of the Rings show? I mean, you could go for seasons if you got it. But then they chickened out and did Rings of Power instead, which, how do you feel about that?
I can't wait to hate watch season 2.
Yeah, so Percy Jackson, new show we've been watching. I know we have one. I don't know when the episodes drop. We have one more that's on there that we need to get caught up on. And then we'll be with you guys in the weekly release format, which is not my favorite thing ever.
We continued the conversation on Percy Jackson in episode 53, Percy Jackson and the Hacking Cough.
Speaking of a drag, you know what's a drag? When you start to really get into a show and then you got to succumb to the weekly release. And then there's only a couple episodes left. And that show is Percy Jackson and the Olympians on Disney+. We got some commentary from a listener saying it seemed like that we didn't like it from our conversation last week. I don't think we...
It's not that we didn't like it. It's that we hated it.
No. I think, like, we were complaining about, like, how we thought the gods were terrible people.
Yeah.
For screwing the humans, so we don't like those people in it. So maybe, I don't know. I don't, like I said, we don't have any familiarity with the books. Are we supposed to root for the gods?
I guess that's the question. If we're supposed to like the gods,
they're not doing a good job.
They're doing
of
a
it.
terrible job.
Very poor
I
job.
don't think that's not the. I'm not getting that idea that we're supposed to like them.
I like the Lin-Manuel Miranda's character, the god that he plays, Hermes.
Yeah.
And that was in the most recent episode. But it's hard not to like any character that Lin-Manuel
Well, you
Miranda
liked
doesn't play.
Ares.
Yeah, I did like Ares. So he's a god too.
You liked him in a sense that you were enjoying the time he was on screen.
And I feel like we're
reason.
probably supposed to hate Ares. Like, he's the one that you're supposed to hate. And I was like, the god of war. And I'm like, I love this guy. He's funny. So, no, like, I felt like we talked about that we were enjoying Percy Jackson, but we were complaining about the gods. So I'm like, if I'm supposed to like the gods, they've got like 2 more episodes to sell me on it.
So we watched the 5th episode and the 6th episode. And
both
now we
the
are
best of the season.
Yeah, they are.
I thought the 5th one was better than the 6th one. That was with Ares. They had to get his shield back for some reason.
Yeah, from a weird creepy
because he was
park.
hooking up with Aphrodite. Who is she? Just the goddess that just is screwing everybody?
I think they're all screwing everybody.
I guess so. And then all the humans, and then they want to blame everybody else for their problems. Like, come on, people, have some self-restraint. So they go to this like amusement park. And what was the god that was running the park? I can't say his name.
I have no idea.
I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it.
Hephaestus?
Like, not Festivus?
No, not Festivus.
That's what they should call him. Something that sounds like that. And that guy played Cain on Supernatural, and he was also in that Gallivant show. Okay. And he's also been in Lucifer. So he's been in like several things. I was like, oh, this actor. He's like, I'm doing the Leonardo DiCaprio point thing. Like, what have I seen? He was
barely on screen. Like, it's making me wonder, like, because they've cast fairly well-known actors in all of the God roles.
I think Lin-Manuel Miranda is like the producer.
Yeah, but it makes me wonder, like, is some of the casting anticipatory in that these people are going to have bigger roles in future seasons, assuming that the show gets picked up? Because, like, they've had some fairly big actors in some of these roles, and they have barely, like, done nothing with them.
Yeah. I think...
I'm not saying that guy's a big actor, but he's known, I guess, in the nerd circles, I suppose.
I guess so.
I don't know.
I mean, I wouldn't call him a big actor. I'd be like, oh, that guy's been in XYZ, XYZ, XYZ.
I think Ares is a wrestler.
Yeah, I looked him up. Ares is a wrestler. That episode was really good. And then it kind of did. I do think they are definitely setting up that there will be a potential romance in the future between Percy and Annabeth. Am I saying her name right?
It's Annabeth or Annabelle, and I don't know which.
Annabeth.
Come at me, Percy Jackson.
And
fanboys.
That episode was just really good. It was entertaining. Ares was a fun character.
Yeah, I liked it.
And I'm like,
a fun character.
What do you want to bet? I'm supposed to just hate Ares in the books. It was the way, like, what's the little guy's name? I need to think of the name, but the little horns.
Oh, the satyr?
The satyr.
I don't remember.
We're doing so well right now. You're not even on cough medicine. But he kind of was like playing Aries a little bit.
I'm high on life.
To get information from him.
Yeah.
So I liked their interactions. And then the next episode, which is the most recent one, that's where they go to the casino. That's where they meet Hermes. Is it Hermes? Hermes? Am I saying this right?
Yep.
Am I?
Hermes, yes.
Hermes. And I did kind of like the little references because they always say, like, in real life when you go in a casino, like in Vegas, that you lose track of, like, what time it is. I think they say they don't put clocks in casinos on purpose. So they kind of, like, make that reference. But, like, they actually were in. They didn't know how much time had passed by. They were not supposed to eat some of the flowers or something?
Well, that was like the thing was like that was the old thing was don't eat the flowers. But what was actually happening was he was just piping it in through the ventilation. So you couldn't help but ingest it once you got in there. So
they're still on their quest to get to the underworld, to find Hades, to get Zeus's thing back. I don't know.
The Master Bolt.
Master Bolt.
How could you forget it?
And obviously save Percy's mom. So now they've got like the magical taxi cab that they had to get out of there, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the quest. So now they're in Vegas. What is it? It's under Los Angeles is where they have to get to.
Yeah.
So they started their journey in like Jersey. So I feel like we're not doing a great job selling the show right now, but it's really good. And I was really bummed. Like I kept trying to will another episode yesterday when we were trying to find something to watch because I'm definitely into it now. Like I want to know where the story goes. So if you're like, I have no idea what these two are talking about because they sound very rambly. They're trying to explain it. They can't pronounce the name of the gods, anything. Apparently gods are screwing everybody. Just take our word for it and just give it a go on Disney Plus. I think if we had just watched the first episode and had to wait a week, I would have been like, whatever about it. But because
I think the fact that we were able to watch basically the first 4 or 5 episodes consecutively, I think that's what saved this show for us.
Yeah,
personally.
And I think the casting is really good. Like these are good actors. And you run a gamble when you cast children as actors.
I mean, they look like children compared to the casting that you showed me for the movie they did about a decade ago. That, like, those would have passed as maybe, like, seniors in high school.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Like, these actually look like 12-year-olds.
I believe that these kids are 12 years old, yes.
Yes. So the casting is really good. I think my biggest bummer right now is that we only have 2 episodes left. And I don't know if they've gotten a second season greenlit.
That's the biggest bummer right now with all the streaming shows. And I think we talked about this a little bit off podcast earlier this week. It's like,
well, one, you don't know if you get another show yet.
Well, but that always applied to regular TV. Stuff got canceled.
And I think Percy Jackson's doing pretty well from what I've seen.
But like, even if this is doing well and we know we're going to get a season 2, there's no guarantee that season 2 is going to drop in January 2025.
Yeah, and I think this actually...
Did this start in December?
December,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's no guarantee. This could go to 2026 before we see it again.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, are there age jumps in the Percy Jackson books? Like, that might work in their favor. Or are they going to look like, pushing 40 like the Stranger Things kids?
And I get that we've been through a pandemic and we've been through a writer's strike and all of that stuff changes schedules. But this stuff streaming was having trouble before all of that.
Stranger Things, again, I'm going to use that as an example.
When did that start? Like 2016?
Yeah, I'm going to use that as an example that even before the pandemic delayed their filming, it was always such a long wait between seasons. Like Joe Keery, who plays Steve, he is in his 30s now. I think he's at least 30. And he looks it. Like, and he's like, I think Stranger Things, they can get by for their last season if they do. I think they're going to have to do a major time jump. Like, just the kids themselves. Like, even Dustin was the one that still looked the youngest on Stranger Things. And I've seen they have started filming, which I think they're saying 2026 or 2027, which is bizarre to me. Even he looks old now. I'm like, what are y'all doing?
The internet sleuths that have been going over those pictures are suggesting there's a time jump because some of the merchandise on set is like stuff from 1989, or like they show a movie theater. The thing that makes the most sense to me is they show a movie theater that has Batman on.
Okay.
And that Batman, that's the first Batman with.
What year was it that they left off of?
I think they were in 85 or 86.
Oh, okay.
So it's gonna that's
they're still
3
gonna
or 4
look a
or 5
lot
years.
older than they should.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there is a big gap between, I would assume not with the Percy Jackson books, but maybe there is. So that's something that they can run into, some issues about the cat. Because the kids, especially that age, and like that kid, his voice already feels like it's like sort of in puberty. Now, he could be playing a lot younger, and maybe that's just his teenage voice. I don't know. But yeah, that's the biggest annoyance of streaming shows, is that the long waits. And it's like, if we get greenlit for season 2, awesome. We probably aren't going to get it in 2025. Maybe 2026 if we're lucky. And it sucks having to wait that long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the tough part. Well, the tough part for me too is this is a show, and I'm not, again, for our listeners, I'm not being negative on this show. This is a show that once it's done, I will completely forget about it. And I will need a long and arduous previously on.
Well, see, I'm going to do the opposite of what you're going to do. When the show wraps, I
intend
to not only read the books to get caught up, but I want to compare all the mediums. So I'm going to go back after I read the books. The books are my plan first. Then I'm going to watch the movies.
How many movies were there?
I don't know. There was at least 2.
Okay.
I think they never made the last movie. Like, they never were. I think. Don't quote me on that. Again, my Percy Jackson knowledge is very limited. But I'm really liking
for a short
the
time.
series.
Soon it will be very vast.
Soon, I will be one of those people that can info dump Percy Jackson, and I'll like reflect back on these past podcasts and be like, wow, she was so incorrect about this.
I'm not going that way. I'm just going to tell everybody right now, I'm not joining her in this endeavor. I've got other things.
I mean, you don't have to, because I will fill you in on every detail.
That's true. She'll be on the couch reading the first book, and she will like text me, "Hey, this is different than the show," or something like that. And it's like, okay, I don't care.
But you should care.
Don't tell me what I should care about.
Oh.
We got a little bit of Percy Jackson talk in 2024 Oscar nominations, episode 54.
So getting into what we've been watching, not a ton of stuff, but Percy Jackson's getting really good.
Yeah, this was the, 7th episode that we watched?
The 7th episode on, as of 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, when you are listening to this podcast, the day the podcast drops, will be the season finale. I think 8 episodes is not enough.
No.
My main criticism of this show is that the episodes are too short, and I think they're trying to bend that line between adults that can enjoy it and children.
Excuse me. Sorry, I choked on squirt. Continue.
I don't even know. Cut the show.
I'm leaving all this in, by the way.
Okay, just keep going.
Yeah, Percy Jackson. So, yeah, the episodes are too short.
Yes.
And I feel like they probably could have done... I haven't read the book. The book is sitting in my eye line right now.
My book's finally arrived.
And I'm looking at that book, and I'm going, they could have gotten 10 episodes out of that.
My book's arrived today, right?
Yeah.
I'm very excited to dive into those as soon as... I might start reading it tonight. You never know.
You'll disappear on me, yeah.
But probably I'll wait till after the show ends. I feel like we got a lot to pack in this finale. Yeah,
that's the thing. I feel like there is almost too much for the average length of episode that we've been getting.
Well, let's cover what did happen in the last episode. We met Hades.
Yes.
We got flashback with Mom and Poseidon. We got to meet Poseidon, who the actor is the son of Maggie Smith, Professor McGonagall from Harry Potter.
Okay.
That boosted him up for me a little bit, because I was expecting Poseidon to be like super hot. And I'm like, why am I more into Hades than Poseidon? We do find out that, remember, I was like, watch Ares end up being the worst one. Ares,
yeah.
Even Hades, now Hades could be being deceitful, but even Hades seemed to not know, like, that Ares put in that little trickery there.
He had no idea what was going on.
Zeus's master bolt.
Zeus's master bolt, yes. He didn't know. Like, he had no idea, or at least he seemed like he did not have any idea what was going on.
So we meet, like, the 3-headed dog. Let's see here. Annabeth gets, like, stuck in, like, a foresty thing.
Yeah.
The Forest of Regrets. And then the one little goat boy, I can never remember his name.
You know, I always remember his name as soon as we're done recording, but right now I can't remember it.
So Percy gives him the extra little thing to get them out of the underworld.
Yeah.
This like round little thing that like Hermes gave them or something. We know that supposedly, remember they said one of them's going to betray Percy?
Yes. I mean, it has to be. Well, I guess she was back at the end of the episode.
I don't think it's Annabeth. I think it's the little boy. Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah.
I liked how Hades was just like, "What's up, guys?" Because I feel like I always think of Hades with like the blue hair from the Hercules movies, and that's kind of how they made him look on Once. Do you remember the Once Upon a Time show?
Unfortunately.
That show was good for a really long time until it wasn't. But anyway, no, it was good. Magic comes with a price, dearie. It was good. Be quiet. I loved Hook on that show. Anyway, this Hades was just kind of like chill. Like he's like, "Hey, how you doing? What's
it was like
up?
in his bedgown or something.
Hey
like,
guys,
just casual.
And I don't know
about
if it's a shtick or what, but we got the background. So Poseidon seemed like he was more of a caring father than what I've been led to believe the whole series, and he was basically telling the mom like, "Don't take him to this camp for like the special half-blood gifted demigod children yet." Like that's from that flashback scene, correct?
Yeah. I
like how every time like Poseidon shows up, like it's pouring the rain out, and I'm like, man, that'd be a bummer to like hook up with this guy and then it's always gonna be rainy.
Is that like he's doing that on purpose, or is that
know.
like just?
I think I had in my head that he was gonna look more like Jason Momoa, like Aquaman type. I don't know why. I'm wondering, I've seen a lot of stuff on TikTok that I've had to like be like, my eyes, where people are talking about like the romance between the mom and Poseidon. I'm like, am I going to get more the details with that in the book? I actually read the first couple pages of the first chapter out loud to Daniel before we recorded. And I can say they definitely set up that show almost exactly in those first few pages where like Percy's explaining like what he is and all that. Like, so I'm like, oh, well, so far, at least 3 pages in, the show kind of really mirrored that. And I know book fans, we always like it when the shows match. Now, shout out to one of our listeners, Eric, who told me that after the credits, they had previews for the next episode of Percy Jackson. Neither of us knew that.
After every episode?
Yeah, apparently.
Like previews or like teasers?
Like coming up, like on the next episode.
No. If it's like, oh, next up on Percy Jackson, I don't really care about that. If it was like what like the Marvel shows do or some other, or like what we do in Shadows has been doing, where like it's actually part of the episode, it's just kind of sneak peeking. I would be sad that I missed that. But if it's literally like some one of those old school serials, like next time on,
I like those. That's one of the things that I least like about streaming services that make you do the weekly release, is that I typically have to search on YouTube for a trailer of the upcoming episode. I like to see what's about to happen, what's about to go down. Now we know we're going to meet Zeus. Now when I read to you the actors on IMDb who's playing Zeus, you said that actor has since passed away.
He passed away in
like
2023. Yeah. Yep.
So that makes me wonder about like recasting, what they're going to do. Do we have a season 2 confirmed?
They are done filming season 2 and getting ready to start filming season 3.
For Percy Jackson?
For Percy Jackson is what I read on the internet.
That's good news, though. That's excellent news. Excellent news. I know I've seen some pictures of the cast where they showed like Percy is now taller, the tallest one.
Yeah, that happens for kids that age.
The kids age very quickly, and like Annabeth looks way older. They all look way older now. I'm excited to see more of where this goes.
Yeah, I am too. I think we talked about this a little bit last episode. We're going to have diverging experiences though, because whatever the gap is between this season and season 2, I am going to completely forget that this show exists. Meanwhile, you are going to read 5-6 books in a matter of like
I'm going to be able to info dump on Percy Jackson.
And you are going to become like a lore expert, and you're going to point out everything that was slightly different, or everything they got right, and you like that.
I already did that.
You've already done it.
Got right by reading like 3 pages.
And you're going to watch. You're going to make me watch what I've been described as the terrible movies.
Yes, because yes, of course. So if they've already filmed season 2 or are filming.
Season 2 is past greenlit, is what I read.
But they're not. Are they filming or not?
It is in production. If it is not in production, it is almost done with production.
I would say the least amount of time we would wait would be a year, but it'll probably be a little more than that.
I don't know.
I'm excited though. I feel like this show, like I kept trying to like will another episode like to come on over the weekend. I'm like, I just want to sit down and watch more Percy Jackson. I think one thing, and I think it would, obviously book readers probably aren't going to be like this. I do feel like we took a little bit of time to set up the story. And now that we're in the action phase, we're here, we're doing the quests, we're like, things are going down. And I'm just like, how are we going to, because I feel like the episodes have been like 35, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, they've been short. I'm like, how are we going to cram all this in that, like, needs to happen? But apparently there are several books. I ordered the first 6 books. Somebody told me that one of our listeners told me that there's a 7th book coming out this year. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to, by the time the next season of Percy Jackson rolls around, I'm just going to be all in on it.
By our next episode of this podcast, she might be all in on it.
Yeah, you never know. I
she'll
feel like
read these books. Like, you guys will not. You guys think she got through Friday Night Lights fast?
Yes. When I like a book, I'll read it in a day. I read Britney Spears' memoir in literally one evening.
By the way, I do want to report to everybody that she finished Friday Night Lights and then 2 days later started it again.
And we finished our conversation on Percy Jackson and the Olympians on episode 55, TED Talk.
So we did finally finish Percy Jackson and the Olympians.
Yes, that's a good segue. Why don't you say, speaking of Olympians?
Oh, because I had one good transition in me for this episode, and I already burned it.
What'd you think?
Too short.
What did you think of the resolution, though?
I wanted more resolution.
Yes.
Like, I wanted more, like, of the we finally get to meet, like, Zeus. Poseidon, in a meaningful way.
We go back to camp finally,
and
we find out who the betrayer is.
Yeah, but it's like 3 minutes on screen, yeah. And it's like it's a 8-episode show, and I have the same problem with Ted. Like, they could have made I can tell you they could have had 10 episodes, and it wouldn't have felt stretched.
Ted, I think the 7 is weird, but like I'm whatever about it. Because they were a little bit longer. The Percy Jackson thing, I totally agree with you. 8, like they could have had 10. We could have had a whole episode focused of him up there meeting Zeus, Poseidon. Like, it was, because that was such a pinnacle moment that we were building to. Yeah. And they just kind of like scooted past it. And I don't know if that was all they ordered or if they are trying to, market this for children as well as, children, young adults, and kids have shorter attention spans. Sure. I'm not quite sure. But it was very much like, all right, we spent all this time, boom. You know what it almost reminded me of, which is not a child show? All the build up to the battle in Game of Thrones, and then it was like Arya stabbed the Night King. I was like, all right, we're done. I don't know how long that scene lasted, but in terms of the existential crisis of the show, it felt like they were over that really fast. Yeah, and it's not this is much more positive than we ended up with that in Game of Thrones. But it was just it just seemed like we were building for the entire series to this moment, and then it was over very quickly. And then suddenly they're back at camp. And then they're back at camp. And then we find out who the person that was going to betray Percy was, and I never trusted him. Luke. Yeah, I know. Never trusted him. What do you think? I even said. I get it. Yeah. When he was on episode 1, I was like, he's being too nice. I was like, something's up with this kid. So that was a pretty powerful scene, very impactful at the end, because obviously Annabeth had the invisibility helmet thing, mm-hmm. and they're like brother and sister, half brother and sister, something like that. I don't know. Very close, and you could tell he was a little bit emotionally impacted when he realized that. He had tears in his eyes when he realized that. Go watch the scene again. I know. I was just thinking about, aren't they all cousins? I don't know. Yeah, but they're closer though. They explain this. I haven't read the books yet. I'll be able to understand this more once I read the books about the familiar I just wouldn't all the half-bloods be cousins because they're all half they're one of their parents is one of the gods, and the gods are all brothers and sisters. So wouldn't can we go back to the plot? You don't want to do the family genealogy with me? His eyes were very sad when he realized he's oh. and he just seemed like kind of like, oh, he didn't want her to know like that he was the one basically trying to screw him over. He made some good points though. So he's the villain, making I'm like, we're making some Magneto points where he was like, because the whole time you and I have been like, screw the gods because we feel like they're treating these kids horribly. And that's basically what Luke is doing. He's going to go work with like the daddy god that they have like trapped somewhere. So that was the big reveal. But I looked at you and I'm like, he's got a point. So clearly Luke's our new big villain. Working with Kronos.
Yeah.
A little bit. I don't know what's up with it. Suddenly, like, I like Luke. Like, after he comes out as, like, the villain, after being like, he's too nice at first. That's issue. Just some issues here.
You have some issues.
But
yes.
do you not agree, though? Like,
you always side with those characters who are
misunderstood.
Not necessarily even villains, but definitely on the gray side of the moral scale.
Yeah.
But because you agree with their ultimate point, you agree with what they say. You just the way they go about it.
The execution
is the problem.
Exactly, precisely. That's why
because it usually ends up executing people.
That's why I do always end up falling on the good side. In the end, it was just like. When you can't sit here and tell me that he wasn't making points when you and I are on like literal recording of being like, these gods are dumb. Like saying like how annoyed we are with them.
Yeah, for sure. Like I
like Poseidon better.
I will be
though.
interested to see when you get into the books
if
there is a different because they do not come off as like very good. And what I know of Greek mythology also outside of the books, like they're not particularly good. So
I felt like Poseidon came off a little better in the finale. You can tell that he does very much care for Percy. He had his back. That moment where he kind of like touches his cheek and they looked at each other, that was some good acting. The kid that plays Percy is doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah, I agree.
Like he is like that eye acting too. That just like gives me the emotions. Like the whole cast is good. I really think so, especially the kids. It's hard to get good like actors at that age.
Well, it's a big risk because you don't know. They might, like you've seen a lot of actors who were actually pretty good when they were younger, and as they grow up,
aren't as good. Yeah, you can see that.
So it's a risk when you do a show like this. But yeah, like I said, let's address the elephant in the room.
All right, here we go.
Last week I was working with some pretty poor information on the status of season 2 and season 3. Apparently,
you always confirm your facts before you spit them out.
As of this moment, season 2 hasn't even been greenlit.
And Daniel last week was like, "Yeah, they've already filmed season 2." Guys, just like you shouldn't source Wikipedia, you shouldn't source TikTok either.
I am surprised they have not greenlit season 2.
I'm surprised and annoyed and a little worried. I feel like more people, now that all the episodes are out, or it's just my algorithm on TikTok is like just feeding me Percy Jackson stuff.
That can sometimes make you think something is bigger than what it is.
Exactly.
And then after like 8 or 12 hours, it just kind of goes away, and all of a sudden you're like, where did all that Percy Jackson stuff go?
I know that a lot of the book readers really liked the series, and then there was like, I guess there was one change that a lot of book readers complained about, and they ended up giving that to us in a flashback form, like the little training sequence with Luke. I can't wait to read the book so I can make my judgment on that. So I mean, I really liked it. Like they said, I read when I looked it up, when I fact checked Daniel, because I was like, wait a minute. Because I had seen another TikTok where people are like, oh, I hope we get a season 2, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. I'm like, Daniel just said they'd filmed it. What they've said is that they have a plan in place to, if they can get 5 seasons, to do the first 5 books per season. That is their ultimate plan and goal and hope, but we have not gotten the season 2. I know Disney seems to be pushing it though. They've had the cast in the Walt Disney World parks doing like little quests. So like go drink the blue milk and the green milk. And clearly there's more of a thing with the blue candy that you see like Percy always eating in the show that I'm sure is going to be explained in the book. Because if anybody's ever been to Galaxy's Edge, the Star Wars land, you can get the blue or the green milk, and like they hand him green milk, and he's like, "We're Percy Jackson, we only drink blue stuff." So, and I know they would put like little winks in that. So I'm guessing that's more explained in the books. What do you think? Like his affinity for blue treats.
I would assume so. I didn't really even think about it that hard. I agree. I probably didn't like it as much as you did. It is acceptable for me for what it is, which is a kid's show.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, this was a show based off young adult novels for young adults. It was entertaining. I got through. It was something that to look forward to each week to watch, which right now and for the next foreseeable few months is going to be something rare to have something to look forward to. And so it was nice.
Strike's been hard on some shows.
It's been hard. So it's been nice to have it around. I do want a second season, and I don't understand from where I sit and what I've seen what the holdup is with announcing a second season.
I thought it was perfectly entertaining. It does. I feel like, and I've always heard the comparisons with the books that it's sort of like Harry Potter-ish. If you like kind of that stuff, you're going to like these. I definitely think that a show format is perfect for Percy Jackson. So Lin-Manuel Miranda's pretty popular, and he's like the producer, I believe.
It doesn't matter.
And
I mean,
I don't know. I hope they get more.
I've seen plenty
of shows. Everyone go watch it so we can have more.
A lot of shows these days have like one of their main actors in the show or an actor in the show is also like an executive producer, and that does not save them from getting canceled. Like I do not know. Like things are real weird right now in the streaming world. Stuff is getting canceled and stuff is getting moved to shows. I would like to think that they're going to get a second season, but I'll be honest with you. The longer we go here without an announcement, the more concerned I get, because the show is now completely out and everybody can go watch it. And maybe Disney's waiting for a couple weeks to see what that does for the numbers. But like, if we don't get something here in the next few weeks, I'm kind of concerned.
And I do know that like Bob Iger has said they've pulled back on some of their Disney Plus stuff because they sunk a lot of money into that. I don't think they quite got the return that they expected on certain things. You know how it goes.
The shareholder value.
And they've been pulling back on some of those projects, and I don't know how expensive Percy Jackson is to produce or anything. I do feel like it came out at a poor time. Like, if you're going to come out around like Christmas time, don't come out I feel like it was like right at Christmas. Like, it wasn't like early December or during like break. Because you and I, we didn't start, we had like the first 4 or 5 episodes that we were able to get into.
Yeah.
I think it was like the first 4, and that was really nice. So yeah, I'm a little worried too, but I'm still hopeful that it'll pick up enough buzz, because there are some people that do wait until the show is completely out and then they go in and they binge the whole thing. So we gotta hope those people, and it bodes well for me. Like I said, like the cast is doing a bunch of press stuff right now. They're sending them in the parks. They're putting them on social media. I don't think they would put that investment in the promoting the show if they planned to just be like, no.
I would like to think not. So, but if you're someone who's interested in the show, if you're a book reader or if you're not, but you think you're interested in the show, now is the time to watch it, to put those numbers up, I guess, is the thing to say. Because if you wait and watch it 6 months from now and they've already told you they're not going to do a second season, then what are you doing?
Yeah. So I'm excited. Biggest complaint, too short. I'm trying to think. Oh, and of course, Aries. We were like, we really like Aries, and I think we learned in the episode before last that he was kind of like working on the villainy side as well. What do you think of that?
They're all villains. The gods are all villains in my mind, so it doesn't matter.
Yes.
You can like them,
so
but they're
Luke?
as villains.
Would you join in Team Luke?
No.
Would you have gone through the door with him?
Well, I don't know.
Thanks for listening to this episode of We Watch TV, a podcast about the TV shows we watch. You can find more from Hope and Daniel on Instagram at We Watch TV Podcast. Drop us a line if you like the show, have a question, or a recommendation. You can find Hope on Twitter at Lil Runner and Daniel on Twitter at The Real Hobo Dan. Music for today's podcast was provided by Your Tunes from Pixabay. Artwork was created using the AI program Midjourney with prompts written by Daniel.